And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to Headliners. My name is Simon Evans, and in just a few moments we'll be taking a look at Friday morning's papers with two very special guests from the world of comedy. But first, the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Good evening, you're with GB News. Our top story this hour. Liz Truss is set to warn the Russian President Vladimir Putin that he risks making a massive strategic mistake over Ukraine. The Foreign Secretary will use a speech in Australia tomorrow to urge the Russian President to desist and step back from war. Ms Truss will also say Russia risks being dragged into a prolonged conflict like the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. And earlier, President Biden also warned the Russian leader he'd pay a dear price if he launched a military incursion.
I've been absolutely clear with President Putin. He has no misunderstanding. If any assembled Russian units move across the Ukrainian border, that is an invasion. But it will be met with severe and coordinated economic response.
Joe Biden. Well, here in the UK, Boris Johnson says he is adamant there's no evidence to support allegations made today about blackmail made by a senior Conservative MP. Chair of the Public Administration Committee, William Ragg, said rebels who'd like to oust the Prime Minister have faced pressures and intimidation. Speaking during a tour of a medical centre, though, Boris Johnson said the claims were simply unfounded.
I've seen no evidence, heard no evidence to support any of those allegations. And what I'm focused on is what we're doing to deal with the number one priority of the British people, which is coming through COVID.
Boris Johnson. Meanwhile, a former Conservative MP who defected to the Labour Party, Christian Wakeford, claims he was threatened about the loss of a school in his constituency if he didn't toe the party line. The Conservative MP Andrew Bridgen came to GB News and he told us he had witnessed intimidation.
I've seen a little bit of it myself. It's tremendously serious. This is not the first leadership challenge or confidence vote I've been involved in. I've seen it happen with David Cameron. I've seen it happen with Theresa May. But I've never encountered intimidation like this. This is something completely, it's very, very serious.
Bridgen speaking there. Well, away from Westminster, a lorry driver who tried to smuggle cocaine with a street value of £2.1 million into the UK has been jailed for 9 years. The 39-year-old Polish national was investigated after he was stopped at the port of Dover last November. Border Force officers found the drugs in brown taped packages hidden behind wooden boards in his truck. And the Duke of Cambridge has sympathised with a grieving schoolboy during a visit to a centre which helps vulnerable people in Burnley in Greater Manchester. Prince William told the 11-year-old boy, "I know how you feel," after learning that the boy's mother had died last year. William also said to the boy that things would get easier. The Duke, of course, lost his own mother, Diana, in 1997 when he was just 15 years old. On TV, online and through your radio on DAB+, you are with GB News. Now back to Headliners.
Thank you, Polly, and hello everyone. Welcome to Headliners. In just a moment, I will be introducing you to our guests. But first, let's take a look at Friday's front pages and see whether we accord with the news as presented by Polly there. Number 1 is the Daily Mail. We have unions at war with PM over back to office, and Downton's Lady Mary to marry Fleabag's brother. Next one coming up, we have the Independent. Tory rebels, we're being hounded by PM's allies. This is very much the same story. Then we have The Guardian, with Tories using dirty tactics to get MPs to back Johnson. And a rather charming photograph of Sonny Rollins there, who is the grand old man of jazz, still going strong. Financial Times, they say Biden hardens warning to Russia after Kiev says no attack is minor. Kiev used to be spelt differently, I'm sure, if the chicken packaging I'm familiar with is anything to go by. Also, judge says criminal gang ringleader's state bounce-back loan defies belief. That's an intriguing story. They were extraordinarily easy to get hold of, those bounce-back loans. I remember that. The Daily Mirror has lowest of the low. Johnson's Tories told MP they would block new school for his struggling town unless he voted against free school meals. The Daily Telegraph has schools defy PM on masks in class. It seems they found some schools that would prefer to be more cautious than the government. And Raducanu feels the pain of defeat. The Times has a lovely picture of the Duchess of Cambridge with a dog chosen for its capacity to blend in beautifully with her coat. Their headline is Tory rebels retaliate in row over blackmail and hundreds of UK troops ready to bolster Ukraine's neighbours. The Daily Express also has Cuddly Kate's puppy love and cash help for millions in energy bills crisis. We are, of course, facing a huge hike in the cost of living, especially in terms of heating our homes. Metro have blackmailed to back Boris. That is the main story, and is the one we'll be coming to first very shortly. And then we have the Eye with Tory civil war over future of Johnson. They have a very simple bar graph there, which shows how many people disapprove or strongly disapprove of Johnson. Almost twice as many feel more warmly towards him. And the Daily Star, which never lets us down, has the lame duck PM. Foul, they cry, as we hire world-class fancy dress costume. Well, I suppose it might be. I don't know what the competition was like. Anyway, those are the headlines. Let's take a sting and then we'll have a chat about them. So those are the headlines. My guests tonight are Steve N. Allen. Hello, and Eric McElroy.
Good evening.
I wrote that out properly on the autocue, so with the emphasis on the first half, but I managed to remember it because I did used to have a physics. Did I tell you this? I had a physics teacher who was McElroy.
Oh, that's the other side.
And he looked a little like you as well, although then I was younger. But if you're any better at explaining why rulers get shorter as they approach the speed of light,
I am not.
You know, no, it was beyond him.
You
can
tell
do
me that. Steve's the science one. No idea.
A little bit of Einstein relativity.
If we run out of time towards the end of the show this evening,
don't get him started.
Bring that in. And before we go any further, I understand you two work as a bit of a double act on the sort of YouTube circuit. Is that right?
Yeah. Virtual streaming comedy show. This is the first time we've been on a non-YouTube platform together. So
this could be it, the big takeover. And you're going to have to watch my step with you two doing that flirtatious blonde Fox News presenter stuff. So anyway, let's see what the stories are. Our top story, I think it was fairly unanimous, though not quite. Well, things either are or they aren't. There was a degree of consensus. The ongoing travails of our embattled Prime Minister, and it does remind me this ever so slightly of that period in American TV news when the walls were closing in on a daily basis for Donald Trump, and yet they never quite seemed to finally cut him off. Suggestions that Boris Johnson and his team are bullying, possibly even blackmailing MPs to back him. There is talk of intimidation. That, of course, suggests a certain amount of physical threat. There is certainly the suggestion that various politicians have been led to believe that funding might be cut off from some of their favoured projects, or on a slightly more visceral level, that they might be exposed to media ridicule, that stories that might embarrass them could be leaked. And of course, these things are no doubt stored up. Anyone who watched the thick of it will remember that that is obviously the capacity of that office. I mean, I don't know. There was a little bit of dirty tricks with politics at this time of year, and this not time of year, but this period within an administration. But it does ring a little bit more true, perhaps, given Johnson's history of being caught on tape, agreeing to help his friend Darius Guppy to give a journalist a couple of black eyes if he was to pursue a story they didn't want. I mean, how do you feel? What do you think, Steve? Does it ring true for you?
I'm certainly not shocked by it.
No.
In fact, I probably presumed that politics is full of all of this, especially on the Conservative side of things. Even Theresa May worked out that they were known as the nasty party. I mean, a lot of this, I guess, is because I've watched House of Cards, so I presume it's all backstabbing. So this is very much like House of Cards, other than that has a wrong-un as the main character. Well, actually, it's not too far off then, is it? But
he was a much smoother wrong-un, wasn't he? Well, there were two editions of the House of Cards. The first one many years ago, which I can't remember his name, the actor, but he was almost like a sort of Charles Dance type character, wasn't he? Very austere, public school educated. And then they moved to the Kevin Spacey model.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson is kind of like the history repeats first as tragedy, then as farce kind of iteration of that, isn't it? I think
so at least he's got a job when all this goes on. Film it as a reality show. I love the fact that Boris said he insisted that he saw no evidence to back up these accusations. No. He also saw no evidence that people stood around drinking was a party. So he's got some Magoo points in the bank right now, is what I'm thinking.
Yes, I think that, I mean, it's a clever reframing of the issue, that, though, isn't it, in a sense, because it suggests that he clearly hasn't done this himself or ordered it. It's as if somebody suggests that a phenomenon is taking place in his office of which, you think there's a leak, you think there's some damp, somebody was complaining there's footfall is over, The accusations are that he has ordered this, that he has signed it off, and he is somehow managing to reframe it as something. I've heard no evidence of this.
Which means we're only 24 hours away from him saying, well, no one told me blackmail was wrong. Grown-up never said.
Nobody explained to me that a threat would amount to intimidation. What do you think, Eric?
Well, I want to try this on because I've just seen it so much on TV lately. I don't want to comment on a hypothetical, and I'm waiting for Sue Gray to finish her inquiry. I just want to see what that feels like.
How many of the nation's children are going to be trying that on?
Everyone knows.
Who left this all over the kitchen surface? I'm waiting for the results to go.
Sue Gray. But there's going to be the photo after that. As soon as he's denied it like he has, that he doesn't know about it.
Yeah.
It'll be maybe that manila envelope that has the photos in it, and there's going to be someone like, the blackmail.
They have
happening.
to be very careful now, don't they? Because 20 years ago, 30, well, even then his phone call was somehow recorded. Nobody knows how that happened, but Matt Hancock caught snogging next to the photocopier. Anyone who is physically approached with any sort of form of intimidation, that is likely to get picked up on camera sooner or later.
I would imagine years ago, Boris probably released that audio himself because he thought it made him look good.
Yeah,
that's probably how it got out in the first place.
The way have you seen the clip of him listening back to it many years later? And he's just sort of chortling away, as if he's been at this for high jinks.
Some of the defence follows in that same direction of not apologising, with Michael Fabricant saying, if I reported every time I'd been threatened by a whip, or a whip reported every time I'd threatened them, the police wouldn't have any time to conduct other police work. That's not really
That's not what you want to hear, is it? No. Also, the idea of Michael Fabricant being threatened by a whip, that actually summons up an entirely unwelcome image. The chap who's blown this particular whistle the first time was a young William Wragg, W-R-A-G-G, which feels like a Dickensian name, doesn't it? Somebody's introduced it from rags to riches. But he is quite an intriguing. I looked him up on Wikipedia. I hadn't really heard of him previously. He's only come into Parliament in 2015, fairly new. His main two claims to fame previously were complaining that the National Trust had been captured by the woke tyranny, the cultural Marxism of the left. And then also that, what was his other one? Oh, yes, he was a lockdown skeptic. He actually campaigned against lockdown. So he's not quite what you might expect, in fact. I had assumed that this was somebody from the left who'd want to blow the whistle against Johnson, but he turns out to be a bit of a young fogey. Does that change your view of the situation?
Well, I think apparently a lot of it is these newer MPs aren't used to doing it the old school way.
Right.
And they're actually saying, no, this is workplace bullying, this is not right.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, if you're thinking about going into government, finding out that, Michael Fabricant might be yelling at you at one point or another, and that's going to be
terrifying,
part of
wouldn't
the
it? Can you imagine
daily
him bearing
course.
down on you, backlit?
Could you not? I would be willing to do it so that you could say to him, all right, keep your hair on. That's all you want to do in life, isn't it?
What are you saying about
He could raise so much money for charity, wouldn't he, if he would just allow his hair to be tousled. Anyway, our other story, which we have, is overseas, but an iteration of the same. Of course, the major theme, which is all to do with COVID-19, which is surely should have departed the national and international stage by now, but it looks like Austria are trying a carrot and stick approach to the vaccine. Or rather to the vaccine hesitant. I like that term, vaccine hesitant. It always suggests to me like a dear old horse that is, understandably but wrongly refusing to jump over a water feature in a horse jumping round because horses have a race memory that water has all sorts of nasty things in it, like snakes and so on, and it doesn't understand that in the arena that the water feature is safe, So it's just hesitant, this horse.
Right.
So they're trying the carrot and stick approach. The carrot is a €500 prize. Possibly you might win in a lottery, which your name gets entered into if you have the vaccine. And the stick is a €3,000 fine, which you will definitely get if you don't. But they don't quite feel to me like they slot together as carrot and stick. That's a bit like... I don't know, if you don't steal, then you not only don't go to jail, but also your name goes forward to Santa's nice. I don't know. Is this not like trying to sprinkle icing sugar on a fairly authoritarian ramping up?
The headline is that it's kind of doing a vaccine mandate for adults, but it also does say that if you've had COVID in the last 6 months, then that would qualify as an exemption.
The Djokovic exemption.
So, yeah,
Robert Ludlam called it.
That would get you through there. But I mean, maybe this is just Austria's attempt to, because when you say Austria, you think of just a few things.
Yeah.
Maybe this is their chance to move past some of the bad stuff in history.
You think if Anschluss had been more carrot and stick, it might have been like less historically controversial.
Moving the narrative.
Yeah. How do you feel about it, Steve? Is it reasonable at this point? They've got about 70% vaccine uptake. It's not as if there's massive hesitancy. Traditionally, that's regarded as getting close to, what's necessary for herd immunity.
Well, I think the percentage you need for herd immunity is based on the virus. So it would depend on transmissibility and all issues like this. To be fair, sorry to ruin the mood, I hate every side of this.
Yeah.
I totally agree with everyone having a vaccine, but I don't agree with trying to make it mandatory. But also, if the only reason you're getting a vaccine is because I might win. Yeah, you might win some antibodies that can fight a disease, you fool. That's the best thing about it. Modern science is amazing and create this thing. I'll do it for I might win the raffle.
It does kind of besmirch it a little bit. I remember reading years ago when my kids were young, I read a few books about, the best way to try and encourage them to develop healthy habits. And one of the counterintuitive initially, but actually not, if you give it a moment's thought, it totally makes sense, is that you don't offer rewards for things that you want them to become like ingrained habits. If you want them to just like come to granny's, don't whinge and cry, and don't like misbehave and sulk, and I will give you an ice cream afterwards. That's okay, a bit of bribery in that kind of situation. But if you want them to actually develop a lifelong habit of doing their homework on time, the last thing you do is start bribing them, because then they assume that it's something that's worthless, that you're having to kind of dress up.
It also means that people in Austria at some point won't get a vaccine because they'll be like, what, I don't get a scratch card? Not yet, mate.
No.
So, when I want my kids to do something and they don't do it, I just fine them €3,500.
Yeah, absolutely.
Takes care of it.
I tell you what, though, by Austrian standards, that's not that much. I did a gig. Not only are they superbly wealthy, but I did a gig in Vienna about 3 years ago, and was walking through the streets afterwards with a couple of other comics and some, the entourage generally. And one of them was riding what amounted to the Austrian version of a Boris bike. I don't know which one of their statesmen they'd named it after, but he was riding down a pedestrian precinct which was otherwise deserted at about 11 o'clock at night, and he was pulled over by a police car and given an on-the-spot €1,000 fine. Literally €1,000, and he had to pay it then and there, or he would have been taken in to the station, because you weren't supposed to ride a bike on the pavement.
But if he rode it in the correct direction on the road, was he entered into a tombola? Lucky.
Yeah. OK, next story. I confess to feeling a certain amount of discomfort with this one. We're talking about the build-up of Russian troops on the border again, of course, and the West's response. I don't think a great deal has happened in terms of the actual build-up, but... was one of you done a bit of research on this?
We have some images. And I read this story and thought it's nice to know where World War III is going to come from. Because for a while we were thinking, Iran, Iraq, maybe China and Japan over those disputed islands. It's good to know that it's going to be Ukraine-based by the looks of things. They've got some images of military equipment being transported by train, not petrol car, so Greta should be happy. And they are doing military exercises. That's the official line.
Star jumps, that sort of thing.
Yeah. They're meant to take 2 weeks, but the soldiers have been told that they could be away for 9 months. I mean, it's always good to plan for traffic on the way back, but it doesn't fit. Clearly, it doesn't fit.
That's not a minor incursion, is it?
Yeah, that's
in your schedule.
And also, the idea is that if you're just doing a military exercise, why are you doing it so close to a place that people think you're going to invade? Just PR-wise, that would be a silly move. So it's certainly raising some questions, and the answers of which are terrifying.
I do like the idea, as you say, that it's quite old school, though, isn't it? America versus Russia. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. You know, the 1980s want their foreign policy back, and now suddenly here we are. You know, it's like the kids loving vinyl.
Yeah, I'm not excited about a war, but I am excited about having the Russians as the bad guys.
Yeah.
Because that takes us back to the 80s when I was a little kid, and you had fantastic films. You got The Hunt for Red October. You got War Games, brilliant, and Red Dawn. The original Red Dawn, not the remake, but where they had the high school students and they got invaded, and the high school students had to save America. I wanted that to happen so bad.
Fantastic. A great psychological threat that presented to America. Do you think it still lingers there, that kind of the memory of that? What is it, 40 years? No, 30 years. It's not that long, is it? I don't know.
It's changed a bit in America now because the right has embraced Russia in a little bit. I mean, they're talking about Biden, you know, misspeaking allegedly, you know, when he was saying that maybe a minor incursion wouldn't have the same response as a major incursion. But then, you know, you have to remember Donald Trump was standing there practically holding hands with Putin and staring lovingly into his eyes.
When you say that, Eric, there's a lot of people who would say the exact reverse, that the left tried for ages to present the notion that Trump was in bed with Russia, could never make it stick, and now that finally the left Biden administration have an opportunity to show a bit of strength, and he's kind of going, well, we'll just see just how far into Ukraine he goes before we decide whether. I don't know. I am a little bit torn on it because I'll be honest with you. I'm, you know, joking aside, I don't want to see like an unnecessary war, and I do have a sense. I don't know if I'm playing devil's advocate here or admitting to a disquiet. I genuinely feel that NATO have been pushing their luck by tempting and luring Ukraine, who have effectively, I know they don't like the idea of spheres of influence, but nobody would be very happy. I mean, remember how America felt when it thought missiles were going to be based in Cuba. That was the closest we've ever come to global annihilation, right? Well, this is not a dissimilar sort of situation. And once Ukraine are part of NATO, they will contractually be able to expect that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, and at that point it's game over. That's a hard border.
But Russia's already bordering with some NATO countries, and the Ukrainians have a right to choose that future for themselves if they want to. And by invading a little bit of Ukraine, he's only getting closer to NATO countries anyway. So someone else made that observation. I can't remember where I heard it. So if I'm stealing someone's line, I'm sorry. But
that is it's a big use of the word "they," though, isn't it? That's the trouble. There are other people within Ukraine who feel quite comfortable with the degree of ambivalence. A little bit.
Yeah, but I think that if the Ukrainians choose and make the effort to join NATO, that's their right to do. So just saying that, well, it makes Russia feel a little uncomfortable. You know, we can see why they might want to do it.
It's a 52-48% referendum. I wonder how
You've got to go with that.
I think it kind of was. We are coming to the end of this part. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back shortly after these advertisements. Please buy these services and goods. Thank you very much.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
And Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
And welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. With me are Steve N. Allen and Eric McElroy. We have already dispensed with coronavirus, authoritarian overreach, Boris Johnson's prospects of remaining Prime Minister, and of course the war that is building in the East. Now we look at Prince Andrew. Many of these stories do feel horribly familiar, but we are now well into the piano section from Layla stage of his collapse, I think. Eric, what have you got?
Well, we know that the Prince Andrew situation has gotten quite serious now because he has had to delete, or he's chosen to delete, his Twitter account.
Oh.
So now we know this stuff has gotten real.
Yeah.
Well, apparently if you go to it, I mean, this is something that I never followed before, but now that it's gone, I kind of want to follow it.
Yeah.
I'm missing that it's gone now. It's one of those things that you've got to hold on to it while it's there.
Was he like retweeting hot babes, you know, near you now?
Look at who he's following. Be careful there. The Twitter handle was apparently at the Duke of York. And now if you go to that, it just says this account doesn't exist.
You sure that wasn't a pub or a cinema or something?
No, it was his. I was verified. But it says this count doesn't exist, which I didn't realize he was a count. I thought he was just a duke.
Ah,
so he was trying to pop a pun there, or whatever it would be.
Well, that's the least he can do at this point, isn't it, I suppose?
But he's still got his Instagram page, which you shouldn't look at if you're under a certain number.
Nothing dies on the internet, however, as you know, Steve.
What have you seen?
The screenshots have been captured. There's no point at this stage in him deleting. I mean, I suppose it might be a diplomatic thing, but anything of any interest or intrigue is going to be out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is just to have less of a profile. Everything at the moment is just trying to make it look like he's kind of disappeared, but not the full putting him at home and never mentioning it again, which I think the royal family...
He's like a turbot, isn't he? Trying to cover himself with detritus at the bottom of the sea.
Yeah, plenty. Or just on the island. It's near enough. And so his YouTube account's gone as well.
Oh,
I mean, just good.
Was he running a YouTube? What was he doing? Podcasts or something?
Probably, yeah.
Did he stand in front of a map like Prison Planet? What's his name? Was that guy from the war? The Paul Joseph Watson, who stands in front of a map and everything, kind of rants about the state of the world.
Yeah.
I
forgot about him.
Prince Andrew in his mum's basement. Steve, you got one on someone I must have met, talking of right-wing ideologues, someone I had sort of assumed had ceased to exist with the suspension of his various social media accounts. This is Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, everyone's favourite person not actually called Tommy, is facing investigation by an insolvency expert over an estimated 2 million that he owes. There's a lot of rounding up in this story. The numbers keep changing. But he lost a libel case after falsely accusing a refugee schoolboy of attacking girls. Had to pay $100,000, but then when the court costs, next thing you add more money into it, $1.5 million owed.
Wow.
And then in February, he divorces his wife and then declares himself bankrupt. So we've got all the facts in a row. Yeah. And now Hope Not Hate, which is this...
to you, Mrs. Robinson.
Group, claims that Stephen Yaxley Lennon actually has access to £3 million worth of assets. And the reason I thought I'd use his real name there is Tommy's not got any money, but someone with a double-barreled name might have access to funds. And it's a Stephen with a PH. As a Stephen with a V, I realise they are posh.
You know that, I mean, there is that thing I always used to joke on, I can't believe they're dead naming Tommy again. But Stephen Yaxley Lennon, they obviously did, his detractors and opponents obviously reintroduced his real name in order to emphasise that he isn't this kind of, horny-handed son of the soil or whatever that Tommy Robinson suggests. is there that he doesn't come off as an aristocrat, though, to me. And I mean, lots of people have double-barreled names these days. Some of them are, people on welfare who have just, had. I mean, it's a bit of an affectation almost nowadays. Do you know what I mean? It used to suggest that there was old money. Nowadays, it quite often actually suggests it's a bit like calling your child Mercedes or something.
It can't be an old money thing because his divorced wife, his ex-wife, Jenna Lennon. So I guess that's where that.
Oh, they just took it from the first generation.
So I mean, are they divorced? Is one of the part with the actual questions. How much are they separated? He's been seen overseeing building work on the house that she now owns, and it seems like he's still not using her half of the surname. So I don't know what level of breakup this is.
And he doesn't have, as far as I know, he doesn't have any friends like Aaron Banks or anyone like that who would step up for him. He's not associated with anyone particularly at this point, is he?
But I think the claim is he's also doing better by declaring himself bankrupt.
Yeah.
But if this money's been moved around, so there's got to be an investigation. I think it's a story where surely no one could mind if you just look at the facts. Because if there's no money to be found, it won't be found, tick. If there is, then it should be.
Yeah.
But it's only the
Syrian schoolboy who's been promised a fairly big bonanza for being libelled.
Yeah.
He was basically accused of having. He was no angel. That was essentially. He was videoed being beaten up himself, and Robinson or Yaxley then had said, "I'll tell you what, he's no angel himself," or something, and that he earned $100,000 for that. Now I'm not being funny, but that was a fairly decent payday for the lad, I would imagine. He must be looking forward to getting this sorted out. Yeah. Eric, you have a story about some jacked up germs taking over the world.
Yeah, this one sounds quite serious. These are superbugs have killed over 1 million people in 2019, which is when this story is covered. This is in the Telegraph. And I mean, between the volcano in Tonga, the pandemic that we've been living through, and now these AMR, antimicrobial resistant viruses. They are viruses, right, Steve? Just checking with you.
I think they're the ones that resist antibiotics, aren't they? Superbugs.
Yeah, so superbugs kind of thing.
Yeah, bacteria. Yeah.
Antibiotics.
They're all small.
We need a new kind of mold.
They're bad. But with all these things coming, it's clear to me that Mother Nature is fighting back from global warming and just had enough.
We are the virus.
And then this
is it. Remember those memes.
But I mean, it does. I mean, the thing with covering a story like this is that apparently, tragically, 1.27 million people have died from these AMR type bacteria. But I mean, and someone said this is one of the greatest challenges facing humanity.
Yeah.
But again, when we talk about it, it ends up in the story behind us talking about Prince Andrew's Twitter account.
It is funny that, isn't it? I always say funny, peculiar, because it does, I suppose, because it's just very low resolution, isn't it? Because there's no single bug, there's no single outbreak. We're talking about hospital diseases, right? Because that's been known for generations. And my parents are both, my father's 92 next month. And one of his big watchwords was stay out of hospital as long as you can. He's spent precisely one night in hospital his entire life, and I think he credits his old age to that to a large extent. If you just do whatever you can to fight tooth and claw to stay out of those places. But I guess that maybe is something that the COVID pandemic has...
Well, they say it's accelerated it because...
This is from before that, right?
But it's been accelerated possibly because they gave a lot of antibiotics at the beginning of COVID, it says in the story, because they obviously didn't know how to fight it yet, and that could have, caused this to spread a little bit.
What do you think, Steve? You're the scientist.
Yeah, as a scientist, I say these are the stats from 2019. I want to see 2020 when we all spend ages singing happy birthday to ourselves while washing our hands, which actually could impact this. But it just shows how ungrateful we are, though. I mean, these antibiotics can save lives. When they were first testing the original ones, there was a story of a 12-year-old girl got scratched by a bush, nearly died, and they thought, let's try this stuff. Saved her life. She would have died just from walking too near a bush. Whereas these days, we get prescribed and go, what, I can't drink for 5 days? So we need to be a bit more grateful.
I don't like the taste, Doc, sorry. There is some truth to that. Do you think that you may not have an answer to this, but do you think that the overuse of antibiotics in agriculture, in farming, in animal husbandry, whatever you want to call it, is a problem?
Yeah, huge problem. That and over-prescription of it. And the problem is there's no massive amount of money to be made from developing the new one.
Yeah.
Someone takes it for 5 days and doesn't need it again for the rest of their life. That's not how you make dosh.
Interesting. Here's another one that I find quite an interesting moral conundrum. Complaints that roadside assistants are not offering a sufficiently sexist service. Who's got this one?
I've got this one.
OK.
I'm about to join the team of upsetting people. It's a story of the AA said that they don't prioritise based on gender, and I think by the end of this story you will agree that they shouldn't.
Or sex.
Yes.
Can we say that? I know the headline says gender, but they presumably are meaning biological sex rather than
not sure they
gender
check.
identity. No,
I don't know if
part of
the
the
AA
AA.
man.
maybe that's what's caused the problem.
I'll have a quick
Okay.
look under the hood. No, you won't. So this female customer broke down, called the AA, and then a not very, very nice man said that they don't prioritise the call-outs based on gender. She then tweeted. They replied saying it was based more on location. There's a bit of an issue about not using the correct words or the most elegant way of explaining it. But since then, they've said, a spokesperson said, we accept the wording of our initial response was wrong. We, in fact, prioritise anyone at risk.
Yeah.
And it often tends to be lone women. This is what I like about this story. Gender is written into the word risk.
Yeah.
And
right.
it's actually more important because if you've got some bloke in a lorry that's hanging off the side of a cliff like in the Italian Job, that's high risk versus someone on a relatively nice B road. So it is better to have risk because risk includes gender. Tick, job done.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've solved the problem.
Yeah, anything to say about that, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the real side of this is that the violence against women is chronic or endemic, or it is serious. And so if you've got someone,
it's worse against men, though, right?
The violence against men?
Yeah,
inflicted
it is
by,
literally statistically worse. Not sexual violence, but all violence against men is 2 times as high as against women.
Especially if you're in eastern Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
But
seriously, in the UK, men are attacked more often. Men are the victims of serious violent assault more often. And this is not like because they start it in a pub, just walking down the street, or indeed finding themselves alone in a lay-by. They are more at risk. Sexual assault, obviously, women, I say obviously, but sexual assault, women are more at risk.
And I think that's where people are sort of weighing the priorities here. If you're a woman stuck, down a dark road, are you more at risk than somebody who's in a well-lit area, which is one of the references that are here in the story.
Yeah.
So I think that hopefully, I'm sure that the guys at the AA, and I'm with AA, so I don't want to say anything bad about them in case I break down soon, are taking good care of people.
I like the fact that the AA stood by their man in this situation. I say man, I assume man. I don't know, possibly kind of automated bot. But I think it's a little bit of a shabby trick, isn't it, to kind of take some guy to task on Twitter and kind of go, I can't believe I had to phone him up and do you know what I mean? Like some guy is trying to do his job. He's been given a proper list of, with questions to ask, and then he tries to...
His quote was, "That's equality," which does sound that's a little bit snarky to me, assuming the man just going, well, that's equality, sweetheart.
Eric, this is your story. Crypto mining is fueling or defueling the energy crisis.
Yeah, Bitcoin faces a Russian ban because apparently they're is the third largest country in the world for Bitcoin,
right?
Which I did not know.
No.
But Russia, I just have a feeling now. Russia saying that they don't want to do something kind of makes me want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm on that side with Russia at the moment.
Okay.
So I'd never really been into the whole Bitcoin thing, but I'm thinking if they're moving out of it, maybe now it is real. But it's a shame that Dominic isn't here for me to say that to him.
Yeah.
But apparently the mines are all in Siberia anyway, which is kind of intense. And I didn't realize there were
mines?
That's what they're called. They make the cryptocurrency in
but
mines.
they're not mines. I mean, they're computers. I mean, they might use the term, but this is not like the salt mines. They're not actually sort of like... Is that where the servers are, though, is it?
Well, they're mining them. I figured they had to dig up. Isn't that how they make the Bitcoin?
No, that's not how they make Bitcoin.
It's the little tiny bits that they dig out of the ground.
No,
Incredibly
you use computers.
not. Yeah.
And which actually is annoying because all of the people trying to get the Bitcoin are using GPUs, graphics cards. So if actually you want to buy a graphics card, we're all being priced out of the market because some people are buying tons of them and putting them in Siberia.
Do you remember, I was aware of Bitcoin when it was like fractions of a cent. I do remember that. I'd heard that it existed. I can't remember where I read about it, but I was intrigued. And I remember thinking you could get a program on your laptop and it would mine, as the term was, 2 or 3 Bitcoins overnight. Just for the price of the electricity of having your laptop plugged in overnight. And I remember thinking, I could do that. It just sounds kind of it, but it's a little bit techie for me. It's a bit geeky. That would have been like 3 Bitcoins a night.
So I set up a Linux computer in a radio station I worked at and thought, well, maybe I should get it churning, and got bored and turned it off. Otherwise, I would have been a millionaire.
You'd have ended up in Siberia by now.
Gentlemen, I can report that part 2, as well as our fortunes, are over. The answer next in part 3, we'll be looking at carbo loading, laughter as medicine, and flying pets. Don't go away. See you shortly.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back one last time to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. With me are Steve N. Allen and Eric McElroy. Steve N., our big story from outer space. And for once, it's not an asteroid that's coming within 1 million miles of the planet. It's something a bit more positive and optimistic.
Slightly smaller, but still big. It's a big mirror type thing on a telescope, bigger than a tennis court, this mirror. So, I mean, I thought
Each mirror or the whole mirror?
The new one that's been unfurled.
Right.
Second level of mirror. So it's NASA's James Webb Telescope has successfully deployed this 70-foot sun shield. I mean, everyone is paranoid about skin cancer. And they were worried because it's very delicate, trying to get it to unfurl. It actually unfurled slightly more effectively than they planned.
Is it like a fabric type of mirror then? Or
yes, thinner than a human hair.
Wow.
But obviously a lot wider.
Yeah.
And it was a worry because if it breaks down while it's doing it, there were small little motors, I guess. I've not actually checked if there were motors. Surely it's motors. Or there could be some other electrical thing happening. And if it breaks down, no one's going to fix it because there's no man up there for the AA to go and sort out. And it's deployed. It's now going to sit in this place between the Earth and the Sun at the Lagrange point. And I mention that, the Lagrangian point, because it's the place where it has like equal gravity between the Earth and the Sun. And every time I'm on, we talk about calculus. And Lagrange mechanics is all about calculus, whereas your Newtonian stuff, if you're just getting into that, spoiler alert, it all comes down to calculus at some point. Lagrange.
Yes, the capacity to analyse movement and change or something. It was almost a philosophical breakthrough. Wasn't there also an ass in ancient Greece in mathematics that was midway between two bundles of hay and could never decide which one to eat and so starved to death? I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if that was a fable or something, I'm pretty sure, but that's a different issue. Anyway, this telescope. So what is it going to beam back? I assume it's going to start beaming back images.
Yep.
Is this the one that's looking back into deep time rather than far away?
Effectively, yeah. I mean, a huge mirror between us and the sun. What are you going to do with it? I would use it to make all the cats on Earth go crazy.
Yeah.
They're not doing that. You're looking at near visible light, the border between visible light and infrared, which is why it's got to be so far away. These big shields keep it cold so it can actually analyse infrared that comes from so far away. When you're dealing with the universe, you get beyond my abilities to work it out as well. So far away means, because it takes that time to travel, means you're going back in time.
Yeah.
So the border that you can see is getting close to the star.
So here's the thing that I don't entirely understand, and you might be the man who can finally set this straight. They say it can look back something like 13.8 billion years, right? That's the birth, that's the Big Bang. And it can look back that far. There are quasars out there or whatever that are pulsing with you know, the redshift suggests that's how far away they are.
Yeah.
But how did they get that far away from the centre of the universe? in that period of time themselves. Because if we're looking back 13 billion years, we should only be able to look back to when everything was really close together, right?
But the space through which that radiation is travelling also expands.
Ah, okay.
So the journey is longer.
Yeah.
But again, you are asking a chemist about astrophysics. So
I got nothing on any of this.
Nothing?
I got nothing. My drama degree did not cover
McElroy
it.
would have been more useful than Mr. McElroy, I need to say.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to hearing more from the James Webb. I've got to say, I think it's a bit much naming that telescope after him, after he's already got the entire internet named after him, hasn't he? But anyway. Eric, this is a story on one of the underreported growth areas in adult education.
That's right. People are rushing to the classroom at the moment, although they probably should tap on the brakes a bit, because this is 1.5 million people in 2021 were back in school for speed awareness courses. Were you one of these?
And held aloft, I was, I'm afraid to say.
And so were you speeding in the last year?
Was it? I think it was just at the beginning of 2021, having sped towards the end of 2020. Yeah,
okay.
I got caught on a what do you call it? The smart motorway, the variable speed motorways. And it seems, without wishing to steal your thunder, that's what a lot of these classes. But my one was specifically intended to train us how to understand smart motorways.
Okay, because I was asking when you got that ticket, because were you on your way to Barnard Castle? Or were you supposed to be driving?
Yeah. I was totally legit in terms of driving, I'm afraid.
But I think the reason why so many people are doing this, obviously they want to get points off their license, it's a lower fine, but it turns out it was almost all virtual because of COVID, which I just imagine that a lot of people were just sitting in their cars, driving down the road, doing it on their phone. Yeah, I'm paying attention. So I don't know hopefully that's not how you did it, but...
I was very good. I was very conscientious. I've done 2 of them now. The first, because, you do a lot of miles. I think of it as an artifact of the miles I do. But I did one about 4 years ago when it was still physical, long before COVID and everything. And it was in Brighton. It was up at the racetrack in between race meetings. I don't know why they chose that. Anyway, I drove up there. It was on the hill. When I got there, I realised that they required to see photo ID. They wanted your driving licence or a passport, and otherwise you might have sent some stooge to do it for you. And I didn't have it with me, and I was trying to convince them that I was who I said I was. And I went to the car, turfing out everything to try and find something to prove that I was Simon Evans. The only thing I could find was a DVD of my live show,
I'll sign it
which
for
I
you.
came in. I was like, see, that's not legally binding, it seems. I kind of think it's interesting that I kind of think it's a good thing, It's obviously more constructive, and actually they are marginally interesting, the smart motorway ones, because you do learn a lot about how they're intended to work. But at the same time, there are reports coming out that the smart motorways aren't working and are causing more crashes than they're saving, and that they might all be.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done one of these courses because I've never been caught.
No.
But I believe you have, Mr. Allen, is that right?
2 in person, yeah. And the first one's a favourite because at the end of the session, the lady doing the thing said, "Has anyone got any questions?" And there's a bloke on the other side of the room and went, "What was that book you mentioned earlier?" And she went, "The Highway Code." So that's the level of people driving.
I love that book. This is perhaps, Steve, this is yours, the most Guardian headline of the day, I would say. Men harbour hostile, sexist or misogynistic attitudes towards women's sport. Those are just 3 words for the same thing, aren't they? Anyway, but anyway, that's not the story. Go on.
Yeah, they've done a piece of research. They surveyed 200 blokes and they looked, I think there's a whiff of this that's under the category of the flipping obvious.
Yeah.
Because even though it's 2022, some people still, you can hear them say things like proper football when they mean men's football. There's a bias ingrained within some people.
Yeah.
And it's Durham University looked at this. It's around 2/3 of the people polled suggested that women should not participate in sport at all, or if they did, would be better suited to more feminine pursuits. That is surely a sentence.
How many?
That's 68% of the people who answered that specific question, so the sample size was just under 2,000. But admittedly, your 68 is of only the people who answered the question that they filled.
That is surprising, actually. I must admit, I saw the headline and I kind of assumed it was men being asked, would you rather watch the FA Cup or the Women's FA Cup? And I do think, in all honesty, most blokes prefer to watch other blokes playing sport. And I don't think that's anything that anyone should start legislating against. You know, you might or might not find that disappointing, but I think it's reasonable. the reality is women's football teams aren't as good as men's football teams. They get beaten by third division sides. That is a reality. But to say they shouldn't play it, that's a different kind of quality of misogyny. I do have to say, I suddenly find myself siding with The Guardian.
They were the category called the overt misogynist. There was the covert ones. Only 8% were branded covertly hostile, were the ones who, when questioned in a certain way, would say nice things, but secretly like... So that's what we should be aiming for. That's step one in rectifying society.
Make it covert, that's right. And then it dies out, doesn't it? Yeah. I might get that on a T-shirt. What's your view, Eric? Covert misogynist or overt misogynist?
Try and keep it on the down low all the time. These seem like the kind of men who would enjoy watching women's sport, but for the wrong reasons.
A little more mud.
Yeah, maybe I'm all for women's sport as long as it's not netball, which is not a real sport.
Well,
controversial.
That one funny enough, if you watched netball played well, that one did surprise me because my daughter went to a school and played netball, and it's actually it's quite good fun. It's quite fast moving, and I felt that was, I know it was developed in order to avoid, upper body strength becoming the deciding factor. But the funny thing about soccer is women really do love it now, and girls love it. That does seem to have been an artificial exclusion that was sustained for a long time.
In the US, soccer was known as the girl sport.
Right.
Because, the men were pushed into baseball and American football and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why the American women's football teams are so strong, because they've been playing it, for a long time.
So it really is an artificial societal construct after all. Eric, this one is with you. In a world of often alarming, unsettling and downright disturbing upheaval, it's good to know some things never change and school dinners are still crap by the sound of it.
An incredible story. I'm so glad we could talk about it. It's the most important story we've talked about today. Pupils have been offered jacket potatoes 5 times a week in their school lunch because apparently one of the staff members had been sick, unfortunately, and apparently the only staff member left in the kitchen only knew how to cook potatoes, I think, was what happened here.
So they have jacket potatoes as the main
so
with a side order of other potato forms.
One of the days, the menu, this is at Richmond Primary School in Hinckley, a jacket potato with chicken, mayonnaise, and a side of jacket potato. So you've got jacket potato with jacket potato. Another day, they had jacket potato with jacket wedges, creamy mashed potatoes, chips, minted potatoes, and parsley potatoes. An entirely potato-based meal.
Those are quite fancy potatoes.
For a school dinner, that's not bad.
One level under dauphinoise.
And I feel bad saying this after I slagged off netball, but as an immigrant to this country, I just want to let you guys know, a jacket potato is not a main meal.
No.
It's not a main course.
You need a bit of protein.
It's a side dish.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't understand.
No.
There was a line that one of the parents said, it's especially tough for vegetarians or vegan kids. No, it's not. The potato is not a mammal.
It's actually particularly fine for them.
It's got skin, though.
Oh, it must be alive.
It's alive, and they've got eyes. Potatoes got eyes.
And that was in Richmond in Yorkshire?
No.
Richmond Primary School in Hinckley in Leicestershire.
Richmond in Yorkshire.
Richmond is lovely, yeah.
The sausages down the road.
No, exactly, yeah. That's one of the best places I've ever eaten. Steve, many of us still wake up sweating from reliving humiliations we suffered at school decades ago, but one gentleman took things a bit further to right the wrongs and get some closure.
In Japan, 63 years old he is, and he broke into school to retrieve items that a teacher confiscated. I will say, right at the top, the article doesn't tell you what the items are. Don't wait around for the exciting end.
Oh, no.
No one knows what they are, so I'm presuming a map that says there's some treasure on it. If it's not that, should have stayed at home.
Yeah.
So this guy and his girlfriend, by the way, 63-year-old taking his girlfriend breaking into a place, well done, sir.
Yeah.
Was arrested for trespass, and I'm on his side because he should have had it back. But whatever it was, he's learned his lesson. I think keeping it for more than 40 years, he should be owed it back by now. So I'm glad he finally got it.
Did you have much confiscated at school? I don't remember having things confiscated, no. I don't
know what you would break in for that would be that violent, because it doesn't say in the story. I mean, I know I still have my calculator that I had in high school.
Right.
Texas Instruments. It's a nice one. Yeah. So I mean, that was something I was quite attached to.
We had the Casio FX39.
Ooh,
yeah. And I remember the factorial 69. That was the thing that took it longest to calculate. The screen would go dark for a couple of seconds as it tried to work it out. Yeah, massive, yeah.
Playing cards, 52. The factorial of 52 is so big, it's some unbelievable...
Well, it was to the power of 88 or something like that.
Oh, you're doing
it was. Yeah, it used to be. It had the capacity for that. Yeah, but yeah, I do remember playing. I had a little chess set with the pieces were pegged like a travel set, and you put them into little peg holes. And I was caught playing that with my friend Ross Cohen under the desk by Mr. Simon Ianson, his name was, the maths teacher. And I remember him saying to us, "You two have just signed your death warrant." It remains to this day, I think, the biggest overreaction to it. I think I would call that a minor incursion. Anyway, Eric, we have more proof that our day jobs as comedians should really be available on prescription. I've been
That's
saying
right.
this for some time.
This is in the category of, well, I'd say not a laughing matter, but it should be a laughing matter because it turns out jokes work as a painkiller, help anxiety and dementia. So we are not just comedians; we are healers.
Yeah.
In the work that we do.
If we get laughs.
We heal, we reverse dementia rather than help it.
Yeah, apparently the study, this is in The Sun, that was conducted in China, is that people who are laughing, if you're laughing in a group, so please come and see us at our gigs, that it actually has health benefits and helps with things like dementia. So laughing alone, not so much.
I went to a laughter workshop in the Glastonbury Festival about 7 or 8 years ago, up in the Greenfield side, if you've ever been there, full of yurts and people doing various kind of hippie yoga type things. And there was a fellow doing, it was like laughter yoga, that was the term that was used. And there were about 12 of us in this large tent. And the idea was that laughter is really good for you, boosts your immune system, all the rest of it. But sometimes your day can be long and doesn't offer you many opportunities to laugh. So you have to find tricks. And he taught us a few. Among them, for instance, if you find yourself stuck in traffic and you're late for a meeting, instead of getting stressed out about it, you just you find the very next set of traffic lights that go red just before you're trying to go through them. You go, and you start laughing at them. And then we had to do it. We were all encouraged to stand there in the tent going, and it sounds absolutely mad. But after about 5 minutes of a series of exercises like this, everyone was absolutely in stitches. We were really laughing in a really wonderfully enjoyable, it felt totally authentic, and it had all the benefits of having attended a really good night's comedy, and nobody had cracked a joke. It was another one was where you hold your mobile phone up to your ear as you're walking down the street and pretend you're having a really funny conversation with somebody. Because if you walk down the street just laughing, people will think you're a nut job. But if you've got your... you feel much better.
I'd rather it just be laughter rather than have to tell jokes to people in pain because they're going to snap. But I don't care what it costs throat.
Anyway, folks, we've run out of jokes. We've run out of show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope I'll see you here again next week. I've been Simon Evans. That's it for Headliners. Have a very good Friday. Good night.
Hello again. It's turning cold out there. Clear skies for most, leading to a fairly hard frost, certainly for parts of England and Wales, the coldest night of the winter. But cloud will be increasing across the northwest around this area of high pressure. We'll see more cloud already spilling into Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, and that will help to keep the temperatures up here. But certainly elsewhere, frost forming out there at the moment, and it's going to just get colder and colder across the Midlands, Wales and southern England. Still a bit of cloud and 1 or 2 showers across Norfolk. They should fade away, and there's that cloud spilling into Northern Ireland, and later in the night, North Wales, Northwest England as well. And that will help to lift the temperatures maybe back above freezing, but across the east and south, widely below freezing and well below as well, maybe as low as -6 or -7 in some rural spots. So a cold start to Friday, a frosty start, but another day of sunshine across southern England, eastern Scotland. A cloudy day for Wales, Northern Ireland, western Scotland, northwest England, seeing more cloud here too. Spots of rain in the far northwest where it'll be breezy, but here's where we'll see the top temperatures. Elsewhere, 6, 7, 8 degrees, certainly feeling warmer than today across the east because the winds won't be as strong here, and we should see quite a bit more sunshine. The cloud will increase across southern parts during Friday evening and across the north as well. The cloud thickening, so some patchy rain over the Western Isles, the Highlands and the Northern Isles as we head into the weekend. And we always like to see some cloud and rain across Western Scotland, probably not much in Glasgow, and certainly further south. Most places will be dry on Saturday, some sunny spells for Aberdeenshire and down the eastern side of England as well. We should see some sunshine. Generally, though, fairly cloudy, and where it's pretty glum, temperatures could struggle, 6-7 degrees. Again, the top temperature probably in the far northwest, where there will be some patchy rain this weekend. But apart from that, most of us staying dry with light winds, quite a lot of cloud. Some places there will see some blue sky.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Tonight on Farage, politics is a dirty business, but has undue pressure been put on MPs by the Conservative Party to support the government line? We'll also look at an attempt by the Home Office to try to hide the figures of the numbers illegally crossing the English Channel. We really will discuss that in depth, I promise you. And joining me on Talking Pints, serial entrepreneur Luke Johnson. But before all of that, the news.
I'm Polly Middlehurst in the GB newsroom. Our top story. Boris Johnson says he's adamant there's no evidence to support allegations of blackmail made by a senior Conservative MP. That follows allegations made by the chair of the Public Administration Committee, William Ragg, that rebels who'd like to oust the Prime Minister have faced pressures and intimidation in the past. Speaking during a tour of a medical centre, Boris Johnson said the claims were unfounded.
I've seen no evidence, heard no evidence to support any of those allegations. And what I'm focused on is what we're doing to deal with the number one priority of the British people, which is coming through COVID.
Boris Johnson. Meanwhile, the former Conservative MP who defected to the Labour Party, Christian Wakeford, claims he was threatened about the loss of a school in his constituency if he didn't toe the party line. Tory MP Andrew Bridgen told GB News earlier he's heard reports of intimidation.
I've seen a little bit of it myself. It's tremendously serious. This is not the first leadership challenge or confidence vote I've been involved in. I've seen it happen with David Cameron. I've seen it happen with Theresa May. But I've never encountered intimidation like this. This is something completely, it's very, very serious.
Speaking there. Audio has emerged of what's believed to be a final conversation between the Texas synagogue attacker and his younger brother back in the UK, who urged his sibling to surrender. Malik Akram from Greater Manchester was shot dead by the FBI following a 10-hour standoff. No one else was injured. 2 men have been arrested in Birmingham and Manchester this morning as part of the investigation.
Why are you doing that, man? Why are you doing that for? What's wrong with you? Why are you coming down
I need to do that.
You know, you don't need to do this, whatever you're doing, man. Just pack it in, you know. You'll get a bit of time and you'll come out.
Yeah.
Money's come back to black. Do you know what I mean? He's come back last week. Do you know what I mean? He's done his time. Whatever, you know, whatever you're doing, man. Think about your kids, man. Think about these guys are innocent. You know? These guys you've got there, they're innocent people, man.
The US president has warned if military Russian forces move across the Ukrainian border, it will be considered an invasion and will be met with a severe response. Joe Biden's comments coming as the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also said the EU will respond with massive economic and financial sanctions. Here's what the US leader had to say.
I've been absolutely clear with President Putin. He has no misunderstanding. If any assembled Russian units move across the Ukrainian border, that is an invasion. But it will be met with severe and coordinated economic response.
Joe Biden. And finally, new research has found face masks make people appear more attractive. In a study at Cardiff University, 43 females were asked to rate 40 faces of men in low to high attractiveness in various states, including partially covered by a cloth mask, a surgical mask, a book, and not covered at all. The results showed that faces wearing a medical mask were considered the most attractive. On TV, online and through your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News.
Good evening. Politics is a dirty business. It always has been, and I guess to some extent it always will be. And the whipping system is very much a part of that culture in Westminster. Indeed, Enoch Powell once famously said in the early 70s that the whips are a necessary part of modern-day 20th century civilization, just like the sewers. So pressure, to some extent, has always been put on MPs of the Labour or Conservative Party to kind of, come on, there's a good chap, toe the party line. But today, there have been one or two very serious accusations made. Accusations against the Johnson government machine. So serious that the Speaker of the House has intervened. And we'll go through all of that and you'll see exactly what's been going on. Are the Tory party becoming the nasty party again, as Theresa May once famously called them? Well, I tell you what, from personal experience, I think they're prepared to do pretty much anything to win. And I think in a democracy, there need to be some limits. In 2019, it was pretty clear, once Theresa May had been removed, and 5.5 million Brexit Party votes did rather help, but it became clear that they were the votes that the Conservatives needed, particularly in the red wall seats, to get over the line and win a majority. And the attempts that were made to try to stop people, and I'm talking about tax-paying citizens legally standing for public office, were receiving all sorts of phone calls telling them they shouldn't stand. They even had support from national newspapers. The Daily Mail, and I found this at the time quite extraordinary, running front pages, "Stand down Nigel." Well, that's okay. I'm big enough and ugly enough to take that. I've had lots of front pages. But just have a look at what came next. A whole double-page spread inside the Daily Mail. And the message was very, very clear. Brexit Party candidates below are standing in key seats. Make your voice heard by sending them an email. And the emails, the individual personal emails of those Brexit Party candidates were sent out. Again, the cartoonish figure of me doesn't matter about me. I'm big enough and ugly enough to put up with that. But I can promise you, as a result of all of that, these people did receive emails. Thousands and thousands of emails, many of them highly abusive. And as a result, a lot of very good, decent citizens who wanted to participate in the open democratic process decided it was just all too much for them. I think that was wrong. I think it shows you what the Johnson machine is prepared to do. When, by the way, that technique didn't work, well, the next thing they did was to come to me and offer me a whole bunch of peerages. If we took a whole bunch of peerages, then that would be fine. We'd accept that and we'd stand down. But of course, I didn't do that either. So maybe, from my perspective, this is a little bit personal on behalf of hundreds of people who were putting themselves forward for public office. So I'm asking you, are the Tories the nasty party again, or is this just how politics works? Love to get your views. Farage at GBNews. Well, let's have a look at what's happened today. And joining me in the studio is Darren McCaffrey, GB News' political editor. Darren, this all started first thing this morning with William Wragg. William Wragg, a Brexiteer. And that is significant, I think.
Indeed, but no fan of Boris Johnson, but at the same time, an extraordinary intervention in many regards. Now, you're right in pointing out this, to many people, is not terribly new. The idea of arm twisting or cajoling people, even suggestions in the past of essentially, as physically attacking people to try and get them to follow a government line or even an opposition whip in many regards. I think the main difficulty comes with what you've just quoted about Enoch Powell there, when it comes to this being a 20th century art form. And many people are saying, well, it's now 2022. And yes, politics is a different business. You cannot, for example, be dismissed in any other industry immediately and find yourself out of a job with no kind of compensation. Politics is a brutal business, there's no doubt about that. But at the same time, there's a feeling, this is what William Wragg was stating today, where public funds, for example, have been suggesting this.
Well, let's have a look at William Wragg and what he said.
In recent days, a number of members of Parliament have faced pressures and intimidation from members of the government because of their declared or assumed desire for a vote of confidence in the party leadership of the Prime Minister. It is, of course, the duty of the Government Whip's office to secure the government's business in the House of Commons. However, it is not their function to breach the ministerial code in threatening to withdraw investments from members of Parliament's constituencies which are funded from the public purse. Additionally, reports to me and others of members of staff at number 10 Downing Street, special advisers, government ministers and others encouraging the publication of stories in the press seeking to embarrass those who they suspect of lacking confidence in the Prime Minister is similarly unacceptable. The intimidation of a Member of Parliament is a serious matter. Moreover, the reports of which I am aware would seem to constitute blackmail. As such, it would be my general advice to colleagues to report these matters to the Speaker of the House of Commons and the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, and they're also welcome to contact me at any time.
And William Wragg was speaking there as the Conservative chairman of the Commons Public Administration and Constitutional Affairs Committee. He talked about intimidation. He talked about stories appearing in the press. That was what Andrew Bridgen, that was his defence when he sat in here earlier this week.
And can I just say, on that point, I interviewed Andrew Bridgen a little bit earlier on today, and he talked about how essentially the whips were walking around Parliament spying on MPs, trying to work out who was going in. Intimidating was the word he used, trying to essentially dissuade people in an intimidatory fashion from handing in those letters.
Yeah. Let's see what Boris Johnson's response to all of this was today.
So William Wragg has made some pretty serious allegations this morning. He suggested that colleagues were intimidated, that they were threatened to have money withdrawn from their constituencies. He says it's blackmail and that they should report it to the police. And he's also talked about officials briefing embarrassing stories to the press. I've spoken to MPs who recognise some of that. Are those tactics being used to try to stop MPs speaking out against you?
I've seen no evidence, heard no evidence to support any of those allegations. And what I'm focused on is what we're doing to deal with the number one priority of the British people, which is coming through COVID. And we've made enormous progress thanks to the vaccine rollout, fastest in Europe. The booster campaign has enabled us to open up. We're moving back to status quo ante, back to Plan A.
We also had the Labour defector, the man Christian Wakeford that crossed the floor yesterday suggesting he was told unless he voted the right way, a school wouldn't be built in his constituency. And then we had something very interesting happen, which I think does make this significant, an intervention by the Speaker of the House of Commons.
What I would say, I understand what the honourable gentleman said. There are allegations about the conduct of whips and special advisers working for ministers. Serious allegations have been made, and at this stage, without having had a chance to study what is said in detail, I can only offer a general guidance, as I've been in the chair since this revelation came out, as I understand it, at 10 o'clock. Those who work for them are not above the criminal law. The investigation of allegedly criminal conduct is a matter for the police, and decisions about prosecution are for the CPS. It would be wrong of me to interfere with such matters. While the whipping system is long established, it is, of course, a contempt to obstruct members in the discharge of their duty or to attempt to intimidate a member in their parliamentary conduct by threats. There is clear process for raising privilege matters and referring them for investigation to determine whether the conduct in question is a contempt. And in the first instance, members raising such concerns should write to me, and I hope these general observations will assist the House in going forward.
Well, that was the Speaker of the House of Commons, and kind of what he was saying there, Darren, really was that politics needs to move with the times.
Yeah, I think so. And that is why I come back to this fundamental point that